seconds away on Studio 5.
We're closing the church. We're broke.
It's a miracle movie that begins with a pastor hired to close the church.
Did you ever wonder why I asked the bishop why he chose you?
I asked.
And then,
we won Super Bowl 48, and unfortunately we lost Super Bowl 49.
just in time for football season, see why the skies are a bit friendlier for fans of Russell Wilson. Plus, meet the man behind this chart-topping anthem of hope in Studio 5, starting now. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Studio 5. Going to get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's dive right into this week's countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news. Here are your first two. At number 5.
Introducing Uber Christian, where custom dash cameras carefully monitor drivers to make sure they'll never swear, and radio filters ensure that K-Love is streaming at all times.
Comedian John Crist is at it again. His latest, Christian Uber.
And your safety is always guaranteed, as each ride includes prayer for traveling mercies and a hedge of protection. Believe in predestination? No seatbelt required.
You can see the full funny spoof on his YouTube channel. At number 4.
What you realized is that you were in this constant push for perfection.
Christian author Chonda appears on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday to discuss her book, Present Over Perfect, and why she's embraced a lifestyle with less focus on work and more focus on family and God.
As a Christian, theologically, I believe in unconditional love. I believe in my value and the value of every human being.
And those are just the first two in the countdown. Imagine this scenario. You're hired on your first job as a pastor, and your job is to shut down the church. That's actually the premise of a real-life story made into a major motion picture. Here's your first look at All Saints. Michael Spurlock walked away from a business career to become an Episcopal priest more than 10 years ago. And it's been quite the journey. You go from paper salesman to preacher, and your first job as a pastor is to shut down a church.
It's what it became.
What are you thinking when you take that job?
That's where God intended for me to be.
Dear friends in Christ, the Reverend Michael Spurlock.
His time as pastor is the focus of the film All Saints. As Father Michael prepares to shut down the church, persecuted Christians from Burma show up looking for help.
We have welfare, but many new family sleep on floor, not enough food for their children.
Well, maybe one of the bigger churches might be able to...
We are Anglican Church, Episcopalian.
Well, here's the thing, Ye-Win. All Saints is broke. We're closing the church. We're broke.
What is broke?
When Ye-Win and refugees show up at the church seeking shelter and help, and you're in the process of shutting down the church, what was it that made you open the door and do this?
Jesus. I don't see how we could honestly claim the title of Christian and done anything differently. My faith in Jesus, my love of Jesus, just tells me there's only one answer.
In this process of beginning to close down, you feel God speaks to you. Am I correct in saying that?
He did speak to me.
What did he say?
It was really the 11th hour when we thought we had an offer on the church and we're going to have to accept it, that I took a walk out on the fields behind the church, and God said, Michael, I have given you farmland, and I have sent 65 expert farmers from the other side of the world. You're supposed to start a farm here. That's your future.
As clear as that?
As clear as that.
So corn here, tomato here, squash, and a sour leaf. Seed from Burma.
Good thing you didn't land in Brooklyn. Because, you know, Brooklyn Hey, let's get started.
It's up.
All Saints Church sits on 22 acres of land, 17 of it just like this, farm-rich, perfectly flat. In many ways, it not only produced food, it gave this church new life. As that miracle gets shared with the rest of the world, we watch as the film's stars join the real-life heroes for the hometown screening.
It's strange and it's wonderful. And because it's strange and wonderful, it seems to fit perfectly with this place, because this is a strange and wonderful place.
Consider the mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds. Yet it grows such big branches that the birds perch in its shade.
John Corbett plays the role of Father Spurlock in the film. What was it about his life that you felt you wanted to project on the screen, that you wanted to deliver to make sure people felt?
We have a kind of similar outlook on life, which is I'm now at this stage where I'm kind of bored with what I've been doing for 30 years. I realize how many summers do I have left? I'm 56. What do I have, 20 summers left? Good summers? And a lot of my time is spent thinking, what do I really want to do with those summers? Is it to go to another movie set and say someone else's lines and wear someone else's clothes for 6 weeks, get the paycheck, and then go home and wait for the phone to ring to do it again? Or do I want to really shake things up and sell the house and move somewhere and kind of start over? That's what he did. He midstream just jumped out of the boat and said, you know, I'm done with this life. Now I want to have a life of service and in the church. And I just really admire that he did that.
Comedian Chonda Pierce once lived near the church and happily returned to Smyrna as a feisty church member.
Look at Miss Delphia's hair. You could raise sparrows in there.
She's mean as all heck. And I can tell you exactly the women I was thinking of.
Please share. So you know these women.
I know these women. You know, I grew up in the church. And so I tell people all the time, I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly. And my part in this movie is one of the uglies. Ruth was not a horrible person, but she really represents a majority of folks out there that have a struggle with change. And that's something that rings true in the church world in a lot of areas. And yet at the same time, she reminds me of a lot of church folks that get completely off focus of what the church is all about. And that's why I love the story.
Father Spurlock sees this as a story only God could have written. I've heard you say that you made some mistakes even in that journey of doing this. What were some of the mistakes?
Well, a lot of farming mistakes. Not being a farmer or knowing anything about farming. But you know, God got Noah to build a boat.
Yes, he did.
And can you imagine the patience it must require to watch a farmer become a shipbuilder? So God called a priest to be a farmer, and you know, he had to have known this was not going to go smoothly.
Even with a few bumps on the road, the harvest is getting richer at All Saints, with its $850,000 mortgage paid in full, and the church doors still open for business.
And you can catch All Saints in American theaters beginning August 25th.
Still ahead. Bryan Popin is the music man behind this Billboard topping tune.
Watching things about you online, I saw a beautiful prophecy that T.D. Jakes delivered to you.
He shares the real-life story behind the song in Studio 5, next.
And welcome back to Studio 5. We are continuing our countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news. Time now for number 3.
At number 3, this image, a dozen Cleveland Browns praying during the national anthem before Monday night's game against the New York Giants.
linebacker Christian Kirksey led the prayer for those who've suffered from racial and social injustice. And he said he intended no disrespect against anyone, but it was time to speak out. At number 2.
I ask her, who put the sun in the sky? She says, God did.
That's a short sample of the new Showtime documentary on the life of megastar Whitney Houston, titled Can I Be Me?
Stuff of City in the Church or Whitney singing at 13. It's just so much.
Director Nick Broomfield sifted through endless hours of footage in search of the story behind one of the greatest voices of the last 50 years.
You could just tell she was somebody people loved to be around. I think she was kind and generous and funny and fun.
The film airs on Showtime Friday.
As I lay me down.
And with that, there is only one more remaining in the countdown. Bryan Popin right now has the #1 gospel song on the Billboard charts. His story is quite amazing, and his music is what's playing in my ear.
Bryan Popin's I Got Out is the latest anthem of hope for churches across America. While his music tops the charts today, his talent has been wowing audiences since he was a child.
It says that if any instrument, if you you preach the word, any instrument can touch a person. Even if you don't preach the word, just an instrument can touch a person.
Yeah. Well, Saul used to do that, didn't he? He used to get David to come and play to him because of how it soothed his soul and brought him peace and closer to God.
And just as David's music soothed Saul, Bryan's music brings comfort during trying seasons of his own life.
There's been a lot of frustration and confusion in my life, There's been twists and turns, there's been expectations that I kind of expected, and then you get a jab, you get a left hook, you get an uppercut, and you weren't expecting that in life. So when you go up against the ropes one time, you're like, ooh, you just get confused and frustrated. And so a lot of it's crying out to God, and in that moment of frustration and confusion, a song is usually birthed, at least for me.
Watching things about you online, I saw a beautiful prophecy that T.D. Jakes delivered to you.
I know you've been through a lot of storms and a lot of changes. Before you minister to us, I just want to tell you something. This is a new season for you.
What were the frustrations happening prior to that?
Prior to that, I was in the process of almost declaring bankruptcy. I had the appointment set up. My family situation was difficult because I just didn't have my priorities in check. And so at that particular moment, just so much was going on, and God birthed this song, I Can Make It. I'm starting to go around and, just like that was the first moment of where I started to go around and start singing that song and proclaim that song with people. All that was just starting, yet my world was still a bit of a mess. And so I'd be singing it and even believing it in my own, God, I can make it. With you, I can come out of this. And, Bishop Jakes, I've always been encouraged by his messages. I have like hundreds of his teaching tapes on cassette. And, he's just always encouraged me and always been a blessing to so many. But that was the actual service that Tyler Perry gave $1 million to their youth center, and it just caused a big praise outbreak, and I didn't know if I was going to play or not play.
God said he's given you a blessing that you are yet to unpack.
I'm seeing that word come to fruition right now in my life.
Wow. You've got a song that's topping Billboard charts right now.
It's crazy, man. It's a blessing.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, number one, I can't.
Number one.
I never thought I'd be saying number one. I've been number 88 and number 2012, but number one. It's God's favor, man.
So where did this soul come from?
You maybe are a product of your environment. You know, if you weren't brought up in church, maybe you might not know what church is. And I've been brought up in church my whole life. I've been in diverse churches. I've been in African-American churches where I'm like the only white boy. And, you know, I adapt and I connect because my heart is in it. I'm not trying to play something or be something. This is who I am. When I realized what I love, man, I've always admired soulful music, church music. I've lived it, I've breathed it. It's just me.
Once again, Bryan's project is called I Got Out. It is available wherever music is sold. Up next on Studio 5.
I was a 5'11" guy that people thought I couldn't do it.
NFL star quarterback Russell Wilson talks faith and opportunity.
God's given us a tremendous opportunity to share our experience.
And welcome back to Studio 5. It is time now for the #1 story in this week's countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news. Take a look.
At number 1.
He said, I've given you land, I've given you farmers, do the math.
God said, do the math.
Studio 5 is on the red carpet for the premiere of All Saints. John Corbett stars in the surprising true story of how Burma refugees brought new life to an American church.
I think I heard you say you were actually going to say no to this film.
I've been doing this for 30 years now, and it's getting harder and harder for me to leave home for 5 and 6 weeks and stay at a beautiful Holiday Inn next to the freeway and miss my 2 dogs and all the people that I'm with every day in my life, unless I really, really, really love the project. Thankfully, my friend, who will be nameless, read it and said, you gotta do this. I said, I don't know, man. I play all these good guys. My buddy Dennis Leary calls me America's boyfriend. You know, because of, you know, I've just been in Sex and the City and Serendipity and Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes.
You know, these movies where I'm a boy, Raising Helen with Kate Hudson. I'm the boyfriend always, and I'm going to take it one step further now and be a minister. Can I play a bad guy? Can't I just hold somebody hostage for money?
All Saints is in American theaters Friday.
And that wraps the countdown and brings us to our next story. If you are a Seattle Seahawks fan and you show up at the airport in that city wearing a Russell Wilson jersey, you can actually board Alaska Airlines early. That is yet another reason why fans love Russell Wilson. But here's a look at his life off the field.
Russell Wilson prepares for another year taking the snap in Seattle and hopes to add another Lombardi trophy to his resume.
When you win, you hold up the Lombardi trophy, and it's a unique thing. It's a thing that you've always worked for. And then you start thinking, okay, when's the next one coming? You know, so that's the exciting part.
He's already appeared in the Super Bowl twice.
We won Super Bowl 48, and unfortunately we lost Super Bowl 49. That's as simple as that. I think playing the quarterback position, it's a position that you get a lot of success, you get a lot of positive things and all that, but sometimes you know, things don't go your way too.
The Seahawks down by 4 points with the ball on the 1-yard line with 26 seconds left. Couldn't make it across the goal line.
It was a tough one, but you know, God was kind of talking to me, just saying, you know, I'm using you. Everybody else to see how He's going to use me and how I was going to respond. And so I think that's anything in life. I think that when you go through ups and downs in life, I think that God wants to use us as vessels, you know, and so that people can, you know, see and really figure out who He really is. God's given us a tremendous opportunity to share our experience and share our lives with so many other people, and to explain and to talk about why we're here, to encourage others as I go through my walk, and I try to help and love through other people's walks, you know, and not judge, not condemn. And Jesus has to be the center of it all, and I think that loving people, it has to be the center of it all too, because God is love. You know, I know for me, the idea of surrendering, that's the most important part of it. I think that in terms of football, you study as much as you can, you put everything into it, and then, you know, and then you go out there and you surrender and trust that, you know, that guys are gonna block for you, guys are gonna make the plays, guys are gonna play for each other, you know, all those things you trust, and there's no reason why not to trust that.
Off the field, he makes weekly visits to the Seattle's Children's Hospital and runs the Russell Wilson Passing Academy, a football camp that goes beyond the game. The camp's mission? To develop good character, serve others, and love God.
To be able to get to see over 5,000 kids every year for my football camps, and that's like the main thing I talk about, is that God can use anybody, you know, and I was a 5'11" guy that people thought I couldn't do it, so, you know, for me it worked out just right. It seems so simple, but that's the truth of it. I think that never perfect or anything like that, but I think that ultimately when you focus on God and let God kind of direct the whole path, things work out. My favorite scripture has been John 3:30. You know, he must increase, but I must decrease. And so honor the Lord. I think that's what it's really about. Play for an audience of one. And I think that when you look back on the legacy of the Seahawks, hopefully it's not just multiple Super Bowls, but hopefully we were able to change lives and save lives.
And in case you didn't know, Russell Wilson is married to R&B singer Ciara, and they have a child together, a newborn in fact.
Still to come here on Studio 5. Hear the words of life and wisdom inspired by these images that have played out in our country in recent days and weeks.
Welcome back to Studio 5. We are just about out of time for this week's show, so let's look ahead to next week.
I wish I lived at your house. Whenever my parents are together, they just fight.
Alina Pitts captured our hearts in the hit film War Room.
Dad, it's an open league. You can jump in the freestyle competition. They'll let you.
The young actress now adds author to her resume, teaming up with her mom to write a series of books for young girls.
And that's just one story from next week's rundown. As for the final word for this show, in recent weeks we have seen violence unfold because of racial unrest in the city of Charlottesville, Virginia, and it has forced us to continue the conversation about race in America. Bryan Popin has the final word for this week's show. It is a word of wisdom you need to hear.
Look, you gotta love when it hurts. You have to forgive when it hurts. But I think you also have to stand up for what's right and wrong. I mean, everybody's so scared to stand up for what's right and wrong. I mean, what's wrong is wrong. You know, it's like, and I'm gonna be for what's right too. But, you know, I'm against racism. I'm against thinking that one culture or one race, because of the color of your skin, is supposed to be superior to somebody. It's just, it goes against every American thing. It goes against every biblical thing, every Christian thing. I mean, I'm for Jesus, and my Bible tells me to love all people. My Bible tells me to cry when you cry. My Bible tells me to hurt when you hurt. My Bible tells me to love when you love. And when you don't love me, I'm still gonna love you. I mean, even when you hate me and you got a pitchfork against me, I'm supposed to still throw my arms around you and love you. And when you stab me, I'm supposed to hug you harder. I mean, man, it don't make no sense. So to me, I mean, that's what I was raised around and believe in. So I don't understand all this craziness. I just don't. I don't get it. I mean, you can say it's because you're white, but I'm still gonna love you. I'm still gonna bless you, and you can curse me out. I'm still gonna love you through it.
An awesome word and the final word for this edition of Studio 5. Until next time, reach out and touch me at Ephraim Graham on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And then you come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, and God bless.